Welcome to the Called and Courageous Christian Woman, the podcast where we have meaningful conversation rooted in truth as told by Scripture and learn actionable steps to pursue a peace-filled, purpose-driven, unapologetically courageous life. I'm Britton George, and each week I'll be bringing you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and biblical wisdom to help you embrace your divine purpose, stand boldly in your faith, and live a kingdom-building life that reflects the courage and strength God has instilled in you. If you're ready to be empowered, uplifted, and encouraged as you pursue the life you were created for, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in, friend. Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of the Called and Courageous Christian Woman. I am so excited today to have a guest who's very near and dear to my heart, my sister-in-law, Maddy Coogler. Maddie is a new little baby Christian, which has been so exciting for me to kind of walk through with her and see her growth and her relationship with Christ. So I'm super excited to have her give some insight as a new Christian and some of her testimony and sharing some of her surrendering to God and what that's been like for her, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Maddie is a mom, a crazy entrepreneur with, I can't even say this, more baggage than a Boeing. Is that what it is?
A Boeing 787.
Yes, I love it.
Biggest plane on earth.
Oh my gosh, that's not true. Maddie's a baddie. Can I just introduce you like that? I love Maddie. She's amazing. She's awesome. She's a go-getter. And she inspires me every day with her entrepreneurship. So I think we're going to have a really cool conversation. And Maddie also shared that she has true peace for the first time in her life. So I'm really excited to hear about that. So Maddie, you can start kind of with your testimony or some background about you. Talk about your girls a little bit if you want to. Just let the audience know who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah, so my name is Maddie, and I live in Montana. I grew up here. It's really like a wholesome place to raise kids. I live specifically up by Glacier Park, and I would come up here in my 20s to visit, and there was just something really peaceful and just really like serene about this area. And I spent my 20s in a college town called Missoula, and I I got pretty sucked into the woke life out there. Like raves and just like, believe it or not, dancing. That was how I made my money back then, which is crazy to say on a podcast. But yeah, I was, it's that song that everybody's jamming out to on TikTok right now, where they showed like when they were all woke with their crystals, and it's like, the enemy thought he had me.
Oh, I haven't seen
Jesus
that.
said you are mine. Really? I'm like so tempted to like show my like rave pictures on that, and like, because seriously, literally, I almost like, it's just crazy. Like, that was my life. I thought that's where I was going to find peace, was like in crystals and like, you know, meditating and everything. But, you know, I grew up, I was saved when I was a kid. As far as I know, I was saved. Yeah, I just feel like God, obviously, he never let me go. Like, in hindsight, I walked away. I just one day just like forgot about Jesus when I was about 14, I think, is when I was like, okay, so it turns out this is all just a fable, you know? And so I just walked away and forgot all about it. And then it's just so crazy how it can all just change on a dime, and boom, you're back, and you're just how it unfolds, and you look back over your life and just see all the building blocks that God put in place. And then one day, everything just starts to make sense. It's so crazy. So
yeah, it really is. And I think a lot of times that is kind of the age where, because like I was brought up in the church too, but that was more of a Catholic/Lutheran upbringing. My mom was Catholic, my dad was Lutheran, and so we kind of attended both churches. But that's also like no disrespect to either of those religions, but much more ritualistic than like my church now. And I don't think I got from that or understood from that what an actual relationship with God is versus like, okay, you just kind of go to church on Sunday to check a box or take communion to check a box. And then you become a teenager and like early 20s, and it's very easy to kind of go away from that when really you're just kind of checking boxes and not understanding like an actual relationship, right? So it is fun to see it come full circle and always being able to look. My pastor calls it, and I talk about it in my book a little bit, but 2020 spiritual hindsight. So you can look back and see like how all of those building blocks you're talking about have worked together to bring you to exactly where you are. Yeah. Even when you've had really hard times along the way. So I also want to say I really appreciate you being so vulnerable. And I forgot to tell you the name of this series. So this series is called Naked and Not Afraid. And so with that, being like just vulnerable and open and real and emotionally naked and knowing like God's got us, there's no judgment here. This is a really safe space. So I appreciate you being so open in your testimony and talking about some of those things in your life. So that fits just right in with what I'm trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, that's honestly been the theme of my life the last year. Like, I have a really good friend in my church, and she has just been the one that's, like, shown me that, like, that it's okay to be vulnerable, like, with people. Yes. Like, I hid for so long before God found me, or I found God, you know? Like, and now it's like everything is just part of the story. It's like then and now, you know? If you are harboring secrets, how can you bring people to the light, you know? Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think sometimes that's also what keeps people from a relationship with God is feeling like guilty or shameful and like they have to be perfect to walk into the church or to try and have a relationship with God or like not fall short in that. And actually when you look at Matthew 11:28, it says, "Come to me, you who are weary and burdened," right? "And I will take that yoke from you. My yoke is light. I will give you peace." And so like Jesus isn't saying you need to be perfect to come to him. Those are the people he wants to come to him. So I think sometimes guilt and shame keep us stagnant and stuck and not looking for a relationship with Jesus or trying to find a church family because we're functioning out of that guilt and shame.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, I struggled a lot with social anxiety. I'm just watching God just unravel it as time goes on because, like, I did not know how to make friends. Like, I didn't know how to make friends outside of a party setting. And so when the party was over, you know, when I met my husband and we started to have kids, the party was over and I had nobody. I was so alone. So I didn't know how to just like make friends. Like, and so now that I've just come into the faith and I'm being vulnerable at my church, like, I feel so free.
That's amazing. It's like a real transformation, right? So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? So you said it was about a year ago, right, that you kind of came back to God. What was that like for you? Like, what was that aha moment?
It's actually almost been a year and a half. So I've got a year and a half under my belt here. So do they want to hear the story?
Yeah. Give it to us, girl.
So it was November of 23, and my husband and I were having some problems, and I was just like finally just done, and I laid it all out on the line for him, and I just basically was saying it has to change, you know. And after I just was like, and I'm not a crier. And when I was telling him that, I was crying and I was like, really just like raw and open and just told him everything, whatever the repercussions were. And then after that, I noticed that I felt like lighter, like physically lighter in my chest. Okay, let me just back up a little bit because there's a couple other things that I want to about this whole thing. And this is going to sound crazy. So about 2 weeks before that, I was hypnotized. I did a 3.
Really?
Yes, I was so ready for any kind of answers. Because I just felt like there was something missing in my life, and I just did not know what it was. And I was 35 years old, or 34, 35 years old, and I just was like so tired of feeling like I was broken and empty and missing. So I went and I paid for a 3-series therapy session with this gown. And I was a little scared, like, because I like believed, you know, in energies, and I still believed in a higher power. I didn't believe Jesus or anything, but I did pray before my sessions because I was like, God, like, please protect me and guide me and lead me. Like, that's what I prayed for through the sessions. So on the last one, I was like, okay, well, nothing really feels different or anything. And this is 2 weeks before. So then I got to that point with John and I was like, I'm done. Basically, I'm going to move out. And then I got drunk that night, which I hadn't really gotten drunk much. So I went out and got totally hammered with my friends. And then the next day, I just felt so lonely and so sad, especially after drinking, you know. So I took Stella to my salon. And I just had a day where I pampered Stella, even though I was hungover. We went for a walk. We stopped at one of those little free libraries.
Oh, like a little free library. Yes, I love
so
those.
We got like free books from there. And
fun.
It was just like a little peaceful day. And then my friend that's on my bridal team, Britt, she came to the salon. And I was sitting there talking to her. And I was looking in her eyes. And I just like saw peace in her eyes. And I was just like, in my heart, I'm just kind of mad. Like, not mad about it, but I was just like, it almost made me sadder because I was like, she's 25 years old. She has 2 kids. She's in a marriage with an incredible man. Like, literally, he's a unicorn. We joke about it all the time. Like, in my bridal team, we're like, yeah, Tanner, he's a unicorn. But anyways, I was just like looking in her eyes and I'm like, why does she have so much more peace than me? And something just told me to ask her, did you go to church this morning? And she was just like, yeah, we did. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. Interesting. And it was like right around this time, I had just started a big bridal team. And I noticed that every single girl on my bridal team was a Christian. And there
so God's like putting people in your life. Then.
Like 6 girls surrounding me that were Christians. And I was like, well, I guess they're not that bad. You know, I guess like I thought they were all pretty lame, but these guys are all right. Like, but
judgy, boring.
I was all just kind of like, they're all brainwashed. Whatever. I know, right? And so, okay. So I saw Britt at
I was going to say welcome to the dark side, but welcome to the light side, I guess.
It's a lot more fun over here. I'm just going to say that. So,
I agree.
The next morning, I still feel kind of hungover because I'm in my late 30s and you have a hangover for 2 days in your late 30s. But I had to get up and go back to the salon to do actual work, and Stella had to go to daycare. And I got in my car and my phone would not connect to the Bluetooth at all. And I just like needed my tunes that morning, and I was getting mad, and I'm just like, fine, story of my life. The day I need tunes, my phone won't connect. Of course, that's the story of my life. Like, whatever. And so I put on the radio, and like the only like crystal clear radio station was K-Love. And I didn't realize I was listening to K-Love, and I started listening to this song, and I was like, oh, I think I know this song. And I was listening, and I pulled up right out in front of my salon. And right before I got out, I was like taking a deep breath, and I started to like actually hear the lyrics of the song. And it was that song, God Only Knows by King and Country. So it's like, God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows. And like, I got flooded in that moment. Like, it's so crazy to like talk about this. Like, and I was crying there was like a warm feeling in my body. And it kind of felt like it went all the way down to my fingertips, and that like I had like maybe empty spaces or like scars inside my body, and it kind of felt like the warmth like filled up my scars in my body, like inside my like heart and soul, you know. And I was like, I didn't really know what happened, but I kind of did. And I was like, from the time it took me to leave my car to get into my salon, I realized that was God. And I was like, oh, whoa, like that was God. Like, oh, he's...
And, like, I actually felt him. Like, I
real.
felt
I just
that
felt
physically.
God. But then, like, and then I got in the salon, and I was like, I just want to listen to that song again. So I listened to that song again, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm sitting here listening to worship music. Like, what is going on? And so I called my friend Emily, who was the first Christian that I kind of got to know. And she was like, hey, I'm at work, but tell me what moved you real quick. And I was like, it was a song, Emily. She's like, I'm going to call you as soon as I get off work. And so like, I just like knew that I had to tell someone. And then I just kept listening to worship music, and then I felt like giddy all day. Like, and I was like, this is just crazy. What just happened? And then I got home that night, and I'm just like, any song about Jesus that I knew of, like Alison Krauss has a lot of like Jesus songs. So I was like jamming Alison Krauss, and like, I was like, man, these people know too. They know that it's real. And then I was just like, this is like the craziest thing. And I like ordered a Bible that night.
Oh my
but
gosh.
I wasn't exactly sure if I was like ready to take on the Bible. I was like, I have a lot of questions about the Bible still.
Right.
But I guess if God's real, like I was just having like a million realizations like all at once. And...
yeah. Well, and the Bible feels a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's a very big book, but like where better to get those questions answered, right? Than
but I felt
diving into it for yourself.
And I also felt like if I accepted the Bible, then that was like really saying goodbye to my old life. That's like what I was like, well, if I accepted that the Bible is truth, like, I don't know. But like, I thought maybe, okay, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm probably going to just like, it's going to be all like, I'm going to be back to normal tomorrow. I woke up, I was not back to normal. The next day I was like, nope. That
like
was
it was just a one-day phase.
Real. Yeah, this was still very real. So I just like literally... I haven't stopped listening to worship music since. I hardly even listen to my old music still. Like, and I love it. I love some of it still. But like, man, yeah. Anytime you just need to like get up on that Holy Spirit, just some worship music will do the trick. Like, I love it.
I agree. Yeah.
So, okay. I had like a studio salon with 2 studios put together. We don't have like Sola salon studios up here in Montana. What we have is an old hotel with like outside doors, and each old hotel room is a salon. And it's kind of funky. It's kind of cute. Yeah, so that's what my old studio was.
Small
was 2
vibe.
Old hotel rooms put together. Yeah. And downstairs for me was a girl that had moved in the same time that I was moving in, and she had a little tiny flower shop. It was so cute. And I think it was either like the next day or 2 days after this happened in the car, I just like couldn't focus. And I was like, I need to go walk around downtown and look for like a little like cross bracelet or something. I need something to look at to like, cause I'm different now, And I was like, I'm just going to go look at boutiques and find myself a little piece of jewelry that just like to signify. So I went into her flower shop to see if she had anything. And when I was in there, I was kind of like looking at stuff, and she's kind of looking at me, and we're kind of bantering back and forth. And this guy walks in, and he's picking up flowers for a women's night at a church that night. She's like talking to him like she knows him. And he's like, oh, thank you so much, da da da. I was like, so what was that for? And she said she was looking at me like something was going on. Because I've kind of gotten to know her since then. She was just kind of like, what's happening with you? And so I was like, what's that for? And she's like, oh, that's for Fresh Life. We're having our annual women's appreciation night tonight. It's called Flourish. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, is it like where? And where's Fresh Life? Well, I knew where Fresh Life was, but I was like, what are the details? And she's like, do you want to go? I have an extra ticket. And I was like, yes, I do, actually. And yeah, so when I was getting ready for that night, I was like, what do I need to bring? Do I have to bring like a Bible or... And she was like, no, just show up. You don't have to bring anything. She's like, it's going to be really
like, what are the parameters?
Yeah, am I allowed in there? Like, but she was like, no, like, it just show up. Like, it's really laid back. And so I went. And I knew I was going to take the first opportunity to like make it official with God. And I was like, man, God, if Jesus is your son, like, let's do this. But I know, like, cause I've been to church and stuff before that, but I knew that you have to like raise your hand and make it official. Right. So our pastor's wife was leading us in our like worship and the message that night. And they do it at the end of every, time that her Levi preaches, you raise your hand and you say, I know I'm a sinner. I forget what how the whole prayer goes. I should know, but I give my life.
You're making like a public declaration.
Yeah.
Of I'm accepting Jesus.
Yes. So I also forgot to mention when I was walking in that night with Sam, my friend Emily from the bridal team was right in front of me walking in by herself. And I was like, so
the same one that you were like, were you at church this morning?
Yeah. And she was just like, wow, so we've got to go in together. Like I had 2 friends with me They sat on either side of me and they were like holding my hands. And then I was like crying and I like, shot my hand up. And then, so when I opened my eyes, I actually witnessed Jesus. I was
really.
So I actually was staring into the eyes of Jesus right after I gave my life to him. But yeah, that's honest to God what happened to me. So, and I like so right cool. Afterwards, I didn't stay afterwards. I was super overwhelmed. There was a couple girls from the church that surrounded me that were like praying over me. And I was like, what about the people who aren't saved? And like, blah, blah, blah.
Oh gosh.
So like,
you're like immediately spiraling.
I was spiraling afterwards and I was like, Sam, I'm going to get out of here. I'm too overwhelmed right now. I need to go home. I need to go be with my kids and like digest what just happened. So yeah, that was my experience with it.
That is so cool.
It all went down.
Yeah. And the thing that stands out to me the most with it is just like how many little things God was putting in your path, even in such a short time frame, but like with your friend from church and you just seen something in her eyes and then your Bluetooth not connecting and then the floral shop that you just happened to walk into at that time and your friends walking into church with you. I think a lot of people, when you look at their testimony, feel initially like pretty alone. So I think that's so cool that you were just surrounded. And like God kind of gave you this community right off the bat and literally had someone hold your hand walking into church, like invited you, had a ticket, walked in with you. Your friend was there too. So cool.
Yeah.
Hey mama, this one is for you. Before we finish today's episode, I want to share a special I'm running just for the moms out there. This Mother's Day, which is coming up May 11th, I want you to give yourself the gift of peace. I'm a mom myself, so I know that you pour out so much for everyone else, and now you deserve to be poured into. You've been doing all of the things, holding it all together for all of the people, chasing perfection, keeping everyone else afloat. But if you're honest, you might be running on empty. This Mother's Day, I want you to press pause on the hustle and say yes to something for you. My 8-week Peace Pursuit course is launching May 11th on Mother's Day in the evening. This is going to be a grace-filled, God-centered journey to help you go from frazzled to faith-filled and panic to purpose, from burnout to boldness and control to Christ-centered calm. Because you deserve to be celebrated, I am offering a special Mother's Day price just for you. This is $100 off, over a 25% savings. All you need to do is pop in the code MOMSDAY, one word, MOMSDAY, at the checkout and treat yourself to the peace you've been craving. We will be doing a group course that's 8 weeks long. You get to work with me in a live course. This is not pre-recorded. This is real time. This is a community of women, and it's really just a way for you to stop pouring from an empty cup. Let this be your moment to finally refill. Click the link in the episode description. Make sure you save your $100 by using that code MOMSDAY, and I will see you in the 8-week Peace Pursuit on May 11th. I love that. So now you're saved, right? Kind of overwhelming. What did that then look like on the back end for you? So like one thing you mentioned is, well, if I was going to follow the Bible, like I really had to be all in, right? Or like my life was really going to change. I want to talk a little bit about like some things that maybe you did have to surrender, maybe like a specific event or experience that then challenged you to have to actually trust God and then lean into him.
Well, yeah, my life has been changing.
You're like,
a lot.
Let's pick one.
Yeah, it's been changing a lot. You know, getting saved didn't save my marriage. We're separated right now. Praying for him. He's not a believer. And that's not why it's not working. Mm-hmm. We still have problems, you know. We planned another baby, so 3 months later, we conceived.
Okay.
Yeah. So the 3 months between me getting saved and conceiving, we're doing really good. Like, I think that maybe he was hoping that this was gonna save the marriage. He was thinking, oh, like she's changed or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go too much into the whole like marital
you don't have to.
situation, but Yeah, so I guess there's nothing to hide because it's what happened, but we ended up having problems over the pregnancy, and I ended up moving out when I was 8 months pregnant. And so I own a bridal hair and makeup business, and we did 150 weddings last summer while I was third trimester pregnant. So definitely,
gosh,
I don't even know how I would have gotten through that without God, but man, yeah, just getting up and putting on my Brandon Lake and put on a happy face and going to the wedding, like even though my heart was hurting, I had that joy deep down inside of me to lean on. So, yep, 34 weeks pregnant, I moved out. And yeah, so right at that exact same time, I'm finishing out my season. I was working, so I was due October 5th, and I was working up till about September 30th. So right in that exact time frame, I was from when I moved out to when I had the baby October 6th, we were moving into a full service salon. So I was putting together a full service salon in that time frame. 9 months pregnant.
So you're 9 months pregnant, just finishing up a stupidly busy bridal season, moving out of your house, opening a new salon, all at the same time.
Yep. Yeah. Being 210 pounds.
I wasn't wrong in my introduction. I told them you were a baddie, so there it is.
Crazy. Oh, yeah. It gives me a headache even thinking about that.
You're just filled with the Holy Spirit. That's synonymous with crazy sometimes.
Yeah. But man, there's been so many doors that have just opened that I'm okay, yes.
Yeah.
The salon, the guy that had that salon, it was right down from my old studio. He had been in there for 25 years, and he just happened that he didn't want to stay there in that time. And she was the landlord was like, "Do you want it?" And I was like, "Okay, yes, God,
perfect timing too."
Yeah. So, and it's wild to look back on now, how fast and how infinitely my life is changing, so.
And how would you, just as a listener, and maybe even for our listeners that struggle with surrender, so that's something that was so hard for me, and I still have to be very mindful of not just trying to maintain control all the time, and actually giving it to God and focusing on what I can control versus what I can't control. So for those that struggle with that, and then they're listening to this and they're just hearing all the craziness that kind of happened in your life all at the same time after getting saved, but then you're still saying you feel more peace now than you ever have before. Is there a way to put that into words for them? Even though things were crazy and chaotic and hectic, how did God give you peace in that season? Or believing in him, what peace did that bring you that you wouldn't have had if you didn't have that faith?
I realized that the difference between joy and happiness. Okay, so it was the beginning of surrendering. I'll say that. So I'm going to talk about how your book.
So for those of you that are maybe tuning in for the first time, Maddie was just talking about my book that she purchased. That's called 10 Days to Peace. You can find it. There's a link for it below in the podcast description. So that's what she's referring to right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, before I read Britt's book, I had the realization that I had something called joy that comes with being one of Jesus's people. So it was always there. Even though I was sad, I was angry about what was going on. It's I could feel that joy inside me regardless. But still, I was looking back over that last year. I could still see that I was trying to control my husband. I was trying to control every single situation with that specifically. I was trying to control the outcome. So on the first day, on day one of 10 Days to Peace, I kind of realized that I cannot control John. And I cannot make him get saved either. Because of course, on this time, I'm praying that John will get saved and everything will be saved.
Right.
And I realized that I was going to have to let God handle him and let God handle the outcome of this. And I I never knew what like letting go and letting God was. Like I was like,
you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let go and let God. Give it to God. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Basically,
how do I do that?
Basically, for me, I know it sounds so much easier, but I have to just completely step away from all of that. Like the plight to get him to go to church, the plight to get him to listen to me or love me correctly. Like, that's not really my job. Like my job is make my girls happy and just get out here and basically do the things that are going to just improve my life, basically, for everybody.
Well, and allow you to be true to yourself and what God is calling you into.
Yes.
Which also is the purpose of this podcast, right? Like, what is our calling and how can we be courageous in that? And I, in a sense, I've been where you've been as far as trying to like control outcomes in my husband, right? And so when it's someone you love so much, it's so hard, especially once you're saved and you know the other side of things and you're like, I have all the answers. Like, I know all the things. Like, just accept Jesus. It's going to make your life so much better. But you can't. It's so hard when you can't, like you said, like you can't be the one to save him. And so then having to step back and just let God take over in that can be really hard to do because we do want to control all the things and we can see the other side of things for them. But unless they're open to that and can see it in themselves, in my experience, that was the hardest thing to do. Like I almost felt like I was leaving my husband behind. But God just gave me the faith that either we were equally yoked and he was going to follow my lead and follow along with me, or we maybe weren't equally yoked. And even though I wanted to be with him and that's what I saw for my life, if that's not what God had for my life, I just had to trust him in that.
Our pastor recently talked about something with like the yokes from the biblical times. Have you heard this before?
I mean, I'm not sure. What did he say about it?
Okay, so like the yokes, what they would do, like back in those days to train their younger animals would be that they would put the yoke on an older trained animal and then yoke a young animal to the older animal. Okay. So that the young animal had to do whatever the older animal was
trained
doing.
One.
Yeah. So that was really interesting to me, like with how they talk about being unequally yoked in so yeah.
And I think we talked, I was going to look up the actual Bible scripture. So it's 2 Corinthians, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. And so, but again, I think this is something I can relate to because like my husband is on a faith journey. I don't know that I would say he's saved. He definitely goes to church with me every week. I think he's way more open than he used to be. It's interesting because when I've kind of had conversations with him, some of what comes to light is similar to what you said earlier about like if I was going to believe the Bible, like I was really going to have to change some things. And I think that's overwhelming and scary to people. And even though the Bible verse is specifically with unbelievers, I think you can also be yoked like where you are mentally or financially or emotionally, or I think there's a lot that goes into that. So I like the description your pastor gives because again, that's kind of what happened with Cody and I. Like, I was kind of leading, so we were yoked together. We probably weren't equally yoked at that time, but he did, thank God, he did follow along and do what he needed to do to, like, get out of his depression and follow along beside me. And we're still on that journey, but I really like that. I've never heard that before with, like, the older animal and the younger animal. And I think that's what it comes down to, right? Like, we're all on different faith journeys. We're all on different steps. It doesn't mean we just leave people behind because they're not Christian or haven't been saved yet. Or I think it really comes down to people's hearts, like what their heart posture is when we think about like, am I equally yoked with this person? And if not, can I be a leader to this person? Will they follow along in my tracks, so to speak? so you talked about surrendering and like the peace that's come with that. You've touched on some struggles, but what have you had? I think I know you've had, but is there anything you want to share with listeners on if there were like questions or doubts along the process? Or like once you were a believer and something hard happens, how do you stay steadfast in your faith as a new believer? Like, what does that look like? Was it hard for you? Was that easy for you? And maybe even like any advice you'd give to somebody that is a new believer, kind of going through the mountains and the valleys, right? Like, what do we do in those valley moments?
Push through. Even if you don't want to at all, even if it just seems so like you've already heard all your, like, put on your worship music and listen to it, even if it's not what you feel like you want to listen to. Yeah, I just went through like a whole like week or two where I was just exhausted, like emotionally, like mentally exhausted with church. Like, there were like crappy things happening in my life, and I was just like, I just want to, like, I don't know, not do this.
Like, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm tired. I don't even want to think about it.
Like, yeah. Okay, but when you know, and there's no going back from that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I agree.
There's not. And one thing is that you're always going to come back up too. You're always like, you're going to be feeling like you're tired of it all, but also give yourself some grace. You're still a human.
Amen.
You don't have to be a perfect Christian. Like, if you need to listen to some secular music, maybe don't listen to anything like obscene, but if you must listen to a country song or something, go ahead. Like, you know, if you need to, like, I don't know. I still try not to watch too much trashy TV. Like, there's certain things that, yeah, like, okay, I do like a reality show every once in a while. Like, okay, like, sue me. But, like, there are some...
I love my Housewives, and I love my Love is Blind.
Yeah, I'm sorry, like Mormon Housewives.
But those are pretty, like, clean. Yeah.
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 But, yeah, there's certain shows that I just won't put on anymore that I'm just like,
I agree.
Yeah, garbage.
Well, don't you even find, at least I did, or I still find this, like sometimes I'll actually have like a physical reaction or like flinch, like when there's a certain song that comes on or a word is said on the television, or I'm just like out and about and somebody swears, which I used to do all the time and thought nothing of it. I have like a physical, I can't think of the word, but like, it's a physical response to it, but it taken it back a little bit. It's just, Jesus.
I know. The words sound harsh, like harsher now.
Yeah, they like hit you different.
Yeah, it's like, it
sure.
almost like changes like the energy between the two of you. Like, I don't know, for me, it feels like it like changes because then, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I still
like
do
a hard
too.
F,
so.
I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, right? You used to not even flinch. I think maybe that's the word I was looking for. It like makes me flinch.
No, I'll tell you one thing though, real quick. There was like last fall, like right after I have the baby, I was like dying for a series, and I put on that show that everybody was watching about like these college kids, but it was basically nothing but like raunchy sexual, and I was just like, I couldn't I was like, this is just so, it was so explicit, and I'm like, this is on TV, this is like pornography. I just don't feel good watching this. The whole time I was just like, and so I just turned it off. I just didn't watch it. I watched like 2 episodes of it, and then anything like sex and drugs, I'm just like, honestly, I've had enough of that in my life. Like, I don't need it. So
yeah,
definitely
we're on a new chapter.
We are in a new... God is convicting us, and yeah,
well, that's exactly what it is. You're exactly right. It is a conviction. Yeah,
it is a conviction. You gotta listen sometimes.
Yes, don't ignore it.
Yes,
it's interesting though when that starts happening, and you can't really describe that to other people unless they felt it too, like what conviction is, because that's exactly what that is, right? When you're like kind of flinching at that kind of stuff, or you're thinking differently about, you're offended by things that maybe didn't offend you before. And not like personally offended where you're like, oh, you offended me, but just like, oh no, this really isn't for me. Like, what do people get out of this? I don't like this. It
Yeah.
makes me feel icky. Right?
Well, that's surrender too. Like,
Yes.
yeah, like I guess I'm like just realizing that, saying that. But like I've had some things that I've had to let go of over the last year and a half that I knew I was there have been convictions, like real ones, that there were certain things I didn't want to let go of. But and like when I finally just like trusted and like threw certain things out, like got things out of my home, like things changed. Honestly, got once I had that trust and I got those things out of my house, like a deck of tarot cards, like which was in the beginning, I got those out pretty fast. I got like the astrology, tarot, all of it. It had to go. Like I was like cleaning house, like really cleaning house, but like it was like a weight was lifted. Like, and any other convictions I've had that I've followed, it's like you're like even more free. Like,
Right.
yeah. So,
well, and that's what I know. Obviously, you haven't listened to the other like episode 2 yet, but that's exactly what I talk about in there. Like surrender kind of sounds hard and like, how do I give up control? But really there's such freedom that comes in that, like comes in surrender. Like it's a true weight off your shoulders. Like I don't have to be the one to control things anymore. Or I don't have to be the one to make all the decisions. Like I can just be faithful and obedient. And then I think you always, like you're describing, you see the fruit of that and the peace that comes with that, with letting it go and using your discernment and listening to that.
Yeah.
And being obedient to what God is telling you.
You know, all the good words, like the fruit. That's exactly what I was trying to say. The fruit. Like,
well, I couldn't even think of the word flinch earlier. So,
yeah.
Well, I love it. This has been so good. And I just so appreciate you being like so open and honest. I'm really excited for listeners to hear this. I think it's going to be really powerful. It's really fun. Like, I'm a pretty young Christian myself. Like, I've always had faith. I've always believed in God, but I haven't been, I guess, very convicted in that faith until maybe about 4 years ago. So, and that's been a different experience for me, like I said earlier, than growing up in the Catholic Church. Yeah. But it's really fun to listen to somebody, and it's been like such a blessing for me to watch. Like I've seen you transform, and just like every time we talk on the phone, like I just hear the growth and the peace. And even when you're going through hard things, like we always, like all of us do, just how that faith has gotten you through those things. So I really appreciate it. And I'm so grateful that you agreed to come on here, because I know it's a vulnerable thing to do, but I think it could be really powerful for other people that are new in their journey or struggling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so with that, okay, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit, but if you need to Google, if you had one piece of advice or maybe even like one Bible scripture that you could give to someone to inspire them, or to like maybe inspire them to walk through those valleys and remain faithful, what would that be?
I've got my verse. Hold on.
Okay.
My verse for that is it's Romans 5:3-5. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. That's my verse.
So many chills. That was so good. That was like A++. Amen. That was so good, Maddie. Perfection. Okay. Now, very last piece. We're going to have lots of people that listen to this. Where can they find you? Because I know they're going to want to find you. Social, talk a little bit about your company, where they can find all of that information if they want to connect with you.
So the name of my business is Glacier Beauty Company. It's in Kalispell, Montana. We're on Instagram at glacier_beauty_co. Yeah. So we're doing big things in the beauty world. We're shaking it up a bit. I can't say too much about it here right now, but definitely keep your eyes on us and see what we're up to. So
yes,
we do bridal, by the way.
Yes.
Bridal.
I think we'll be seeing a lot more of you without even having to look too hard. So I'm very excited for what God's doing in your business. Yes. Okay. This was so fun. I'll make sure I link all of your social on the podcast description too, so listeners can find it really easily there. I love you so much. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I'm so blessed to have you. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of The Called and Courageous Christian Woman. I hope you felt poured into, encouraged, and empowered to keep moving courageously forward in your faith and calling. Be sure to stay connected with me on social media for more inspiration and updates. Any events, courses, or links mentioned in today's episode can be found on my social media accounts. You can find me on Instagram at writtenby_Britton and Facebook at Britton McHale George. I'd love to stay connected to my listeners, so be sure to find me there. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback helps others find this podcast and is the biggest way you can contribute to my mission of reaching women who are searching for a peace-filled, purpose-driven, and unapologetic life. I hope you found this episode to be a blessing for you. Until next time, God bless.